Today we're looking at stylising imagery. Our learning intention is we are learning to stylise imagery using a range of techniques. Our success criteria is I can import an image to Procreate, add new layers, accurately trace a layer, fill sections with colour, add fine details, merge layers together, and finally export an image. Let's have a look at what this could look like. So here is Big Ben for my London poster. So I've just quickly gone around the outline using an extremely streamlined brush so I can get these really smooth lines that gives it quite a stylised appearance. The second image I've chosen is kind of a bird's eye view of London, and I've chosen to highlight the Thames, so I've picked that out and filled it in with colour. The other areas I've picked out are the bridges that go across and the buildings alongside the river. And finally I've got the iconic London bus, so I traced round at the outline, filled it with the red colour and then started to look at the details. So in the next slide we'll have a look at what this looks like as posters. So now you can see these three components arranged in three different ways. So all of them have the River Thames, a red bus and the Big Ben, as well as some text. But today we're just going to work on stylising our imagery. Step 1, open Procreate and select Photo. Choose one of your contextual images, so photographs of the place that you want to create a silhouette or a stylised image of. Step 2, we're going to change the dots per inch of the image so that we don't have it pixelated. So we're going to the spanner, canvas, crop and resize. We'll then tap on settings and then beside DPI type in 300, then select done, which is the orange button. Step 3, we're going to rename our layer, so we'll tap on the two squares stacked on top of each other, tap on layer 1 and we're going to rename that as photograph. The next thing we're going to do is add a new layer, so this is where we'll do our drawing. Once we've added that new layer, we'll tap on the words layer 2, select rename and rename it as silhouette. Step 4, you're going to select a colour from your imported photograph. So if you haven't done that, if you go to the plus sign, select photo and you'll be able to import those colours. Step 5, we're going to choose a brush. So if you tap on the brush at the very top, I'm going to choose a calligraphy brush. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to choose monoline. And now I'm going to turn the streamline of this up by tapping on the word monoline. And you can see that streamline was all the way to the max, so that's what we want. Step 6, trace the silhouette of your image. So you might have something like a bus or you might have a landscape. Either way, you're going to trace all around the edge of it. Make sure it goes from one side of your screen all the way to the other. It needs to be a continuous loop in order for us to fill it with colour at a later stage. In order for me to capture this landscape of Edinburgh, I'm going to need to create a few silhouettes. So in the distance it's a lighter silhouette, and as it gets closer to us it gets slightly darker. So I'm going to choose a darker colour from my colour palette and trace the next level of the landscape. Now I've chosen quite a complicated image of Edinburgh, so I'm going to do this for a third time so you really get a sense of depth. So always going from one edge of the canvas right to the other, so I've got a perfect loop so that when I start to insert the colour it won't spill out all over the page, it'll just be confined to these certain areas. So I've chosen an even darker blue this time and I'm going over a third section, so my silhouette has 3 aspects to it. Step 7, we're going to turn off our photograph by tapping on the layers and unchecking the box next to photograph. We'll then be able to see all of the lines that we've created and start to fill these with colour. Step 8, we're going to fill our silhouettes with colour. So you're going to hold onto the circle in the top right hand corner and then hover over the area that you'd like to fill and then let it go and it should fill up that section. If you keep your finger on the screen, you'll see a section at the top that says Colour Threshold. If you hold your finger on this area, you can drag back and forward and that will determine how much that you fill up of that space. So if, for example, your lines aren't perfect and it's filled up the whole screen, If you drag and hold your colour and then turn down the colour threshold, that will help you to fill in just one certain area. So I'm working my way along, filling in each individual section. Because there's multiple layers of silhouettes, I'm having to zoom in a little bit closer and have a look at individual sections. Step 9, add in details using the eraser tool. So we're going to go up to layers, tap on silhouette and turn the opacity down so we can see that what we've just drawn is going a little bit see-through. This is going to help us to draw our details in. Now we're going to use the eraser to do this, so I'm going to use the same style of eraser that I did to draw this image. I'm going to turn the streamline right down because that'll make it a little bit easier. So now I'm zooming right in and I'm going to choose any areas that are very light. So I'm erasing this area of the clock here. I'll then work my way through the entire image to see where the lights are. So I've got lights on buildings, there's lampposts, some windows are particularly bright. So I'm going to erase all these areas so that it looks more transparent. Step 10, adding a background. So we're going to go back up to layers, tap on silhouette and turn the opacity back up. So now we've got an opaque image again. We're now going to add a new layer. We're then going to tap on where it says layer 3, rename it, and we're going to rename this background. Now we don't want our background to cover up what we've just done, so we're going to press and hold on background and drag it underneath silhouette. So that will mean it's all in the right order. So the background would come first, then the silhouettes over the top. Step 11, select your brush and colour. So in my reference image, the background is really quite fluffy, so I'm going to go for this large flat brush. Now my image started with a bluish colour at the top, so I'm going to select a blue and just block that in at the top. I'm then going to do the same thing for yellow, pink and then this dark purpley colour. So all of the colours that I'm selecting are from my colour palette that I've imported, so that we have continuity with the colours throughout all of our designs. Double check that whilst you're doing this that you're actually putting these colours onto the background layer rather than the photograph or the silhouette layer. Step 12, blend your colours together using a brush of your choice. So you're going for the finger tool, which is beside the paintbrush. I have chosen an airbrushing tool so that I'll get a smooth appearance and the sky will start to look fluffy. So I'm just dragging my finger back and forward to blend these colours together to make it look a little bit more realistic. Remember, you can change the size of the brush that you're using with the slider on the left hand side. So you're going to drag it up to make it bigger and drag it down to make it smaller. And here's the finished result of my stylised image of an Edinburgh landscape. Step 13, save and export image. So we're going to tap on the spanner, choose share, which is the rectangle with the up arrow. We're going to select JPEG. Then we'll choose save image, which is the rectangle with the arrow pointing downwards. It'll say export successful, and that will be you finished the task. You must create at least 2 stylised images for your travel poster. So to summarise the steps that we've taken, open Procreate and import textual research image, change the dots per inch to 300, rename photograph layer and add a silhouette layer, select a colour from your imported colour palette, select a brush and turn the streamline up to the max, trace the silhouettes of your image, turn your photograph off, fill the silhouettes with colour, add details using the eraser tool, add a background layer, select your background brush and colours, blend the colours together, and finally export your image and upload this to OneNote.